Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. The golden glow of Lane's twin suns filtered through the dense canopy, casting dappled light across the ancient forest. Ariel stood at the heart of the glade, her fingertips slightly brushing the bark of an enormous tree that seemed to hum with life beneath her touch. She could feel the deep roots stretching far below, connecting to the very soul of the planet. The forest pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, and she breathed in the vibrant energy of Lane, her home. But despite the peace of the forest around her, a restlessness stirred within her. Ariel had always been drawn to the unknown, to the mysteries beyond her world. She had seen glimpses of Earth through the ancient magic her people wielded, images of towering trees, vast oceans, and the strange creatures who inhabited the planet. Humans, they called them, fragile, fleeting, but with a profound connection to the natural world. Some sought to preserve it, while others, blinded by greed, destroyed it without thought. Her heart swelled with curiosity, a pull she could no longer ignore. Ariel had spent centuries protecting Lane, ensuring that the balance of life was never disrupted. But there was a part of her, buried deep within, that longed to understand these humans who walked a fine line between creation and destruction. Could she learn from them? Could they, in turn, learn from her? With a sigh, Ariel drew her hand away from the tree. The decision had already been made. She would go to Earth and not as herself, but as one of them. She would disguise her true nature and immerse herself in their world, seeking to understand what drove their passion for protecting the planet they seemed intent on harming. With a flick of her wrist, the air around her shimmered, and Ariel's form shifted. Her luminous skin dulled, her ethereal silver hair darkened to a deep chestnut, and her pointed ears rounded to match that of a human. In moments, she had transformed into someone who would pass unnoticed among the people of Earth, a young woman with a deep love for the natural world. Her journey began the next day. Ariel, now calling herself Eva, stepped off the bus in a small coastal town known for its environmental activism. The air was crisp with the scent of the ocean, and the sound of seagulls echoed above. Eva adjusted her backpack, feeling the unfamiliar weight of it against her shoulders. Humans relied so much on physical objects, she mused. While her people carried only what they could weave through magic, humans seemed to gather and hoard things as tools, food, even mementos of the past. She wondered if this need to hold on to things was a reflection of their fleeting lives. Her destination was the headquarters of an environmental nonprofit, a modest building nestled between a line of shops and a public park. The organization was known for its work in reforestation, ocean conservation, and sustainable living. It was here that she would begin her human experience. Her connection to Earth had drawn her to this place, but the person who intrigued her most was a man named Aaron. Aaron was well known in environmental circles as a dedicated activist who had spent years fighting for the preservation of Earth's rainforests and marine ecosystems. His passion for the planet matched Ariel's own dedication to Lane. She had seen him in visions, speaking before crowds, his voice filled with the fire of conviction. It was his energy, his unwavering belief in what was right, that had led her to choose this town, this organization, and this mission. As she entered the building, the scent of pine and salt water hit her senses. A woman with curly hair and a bright smile greeted her at the front desk. "Hi there. You must be the new volunteer Eva, right?" Eva nodded, offering a warm smile in return. "Yes, that's right. I'm here to help however I can." "Welcome aboard." The woman extended her hand. "I'm Rachel, the volunteer coordinator. We've got a great team here, and I know you'll fit right in." Rachel led her through the building, introducing her to various staff members and volunteers. The atmosphere buzzed with a shared sense of purpose. Posters lined the walls, displaying images of lush forests and crystal clear oceans, juxtaposed with scenes of deforestation and pollution. It was a stark reminder of what they were fighting for. "And this," Rachel said, stopping in front of a closed office door, "is Aaron's office. He's out in the field today, but you'll meet him soon enough. He's a bit intense, but don't let that scare you. He means well." Eva smiled to herself. She was looking forward to meeting him in person. There was something about Aaron that had drawn her here, though she couldn't quite explain it. It wasn't just his passion for the environment, it was something deeper, something almost magnetic. For now, though, there was work to be done. The days passed in a blur of activity. Eva quickly became involved in the organization's projects, from beach cleanups to tree planting events. Her magic, though hidden, allowed her to work with an efficiency and precision that impressed those around her. Plants thrived in her presence, animals seemed calmer, and she always had an intuitive sense of what the land needed. Aaron returned from his fieldwork a week later. Eva had just finished leading a group of volunteers in a coastal restoration project when he arrived. Tall, with sun-kissed skin and an intensity that radiated from him, Aaron was exactly as she had imagined. His eyes, a piercing green, held a determination that seemed unshakable. "You're the new volunteer," he said, his voice direct but not unkind. "Eva, right?" "That's me," she replied, meeting his gaze without hesitation. There was a spark of recognition in the air between them, though neither could place it. "I've heard good things," he said, a hint of approval in his tone. "Your work on the restoration project is impressive." Eva smiled, trying to keep her own emotions in check. "Thank you. I care deeply about this work." They fell into a rhythm quickly, working side by side on various environmental initiatives. Aaron was intense, just as Rachel had warned, but there was also a softness to him, a vulnerability that he kept hidden behind his passion. He was the kind of person who felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, and while his strength was admirable, Eva could see the toil it took on him. One afternoon, after a long day of replanting mangroves along the coast, they sat together on the shore, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The waves crashed softly against the sand, and for a moment, there was a comfortable silence between them. "You're not like the others," Aaron said suddenly, his gaze still fixed on the horizon. Eva's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," he shrugged, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "You just a broken bar. You seem to get it, on a deeper level. Most people, they care, but it's different with you. You have this connection to nature that I've never seen before." Eva looked down at her hands, hiding the small smile that crept onto her face. If only he knew the truth. But she couldn't reveal herself. "Not yet. I just believe in what we're doing," she said softly. "The earth a broken bar. It's beautiful, but fragile. We have to protect it." Aaron nodded, his expression growing serious. "You're right. But sometimes I wonder if it's enough. There's so much destruction, so much greed. I don't know if we can fix it all." "We can try," Eva replied, her voice firm. "And sometimes trying is enough." As the last of the sunlight faded from the sky, Aaron turned to look at her, his gaze searching. "You're a mystery, Eva. I've never met anyone like you." Her heart ached with the weight of the secret she carried. But for now, it was enough to be here, to help, and to feel the connection growing between them. Weeks passed, and their bond deepened. Eva and Aaron became inseparable, working together on countless projects and spending long hours discussing their dreams for the future. Aaron shared stories of his childhood, growing up near the coast and falling in love with the ocean. He spoke of the day he decided to dedicate his life to protecting the environment, and the frustration he felt when people didn't understand the urgency of the situation. Eva listened intently, her admiration for him growing with each passing day. She could see the toll his work took on him at the late nights, the constant stress, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. But she also saw his strength, his unwavering determination to make a difference, even when the odds seemed impossible. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, she began to fall for him. It wasn't just his passion for the planet that drew her in, it was his kindness, his patience, and the way he saw the world. He looked at the ocean, at the trees, at the animals, and saw something worth fighting for. It was a love that resonated with her on a deep, primal level. But as their bond grew stronger, so did the dangers around them. As Eva and Aaron's connection deepened, the world around them grew more dangerous. Whispers of opposition swirled in the environmental community, a group whose motives were far darker than they first appeared. Aaron had long warned Eva of those who profited from the destruction of natural corporations and individuals whose wealth depended on the degradation of the environment. But now, it wasn't just whispers. It was clear they had become a target. It began subtly, with delays in funding for their projects, unexpected challenges that made their work harder. Eva noticed the tension building in Aaron, his eyes a little darker, the lines on his face a little deeper, but he pressed on, determined not to be thwarted by the forces working against them. He wasn't one to back down from a fight, even when the odds seemed impossible. One evening, after a long day spent trying to organize a campaign to protect a nearby forest from development, Aaron and Eva found themselves alone in the office, the glow of their computers casting eerie shadows on the walls. The silence between them was comfortable, but there was an unspoken tension, as if both knew something bigger was looming. Aaron rubbed his temples and leaned back in his chair, letting out a tired sigh. I don't know how much longer we can keep this up. Every day, it feels like we're losing more ground. The developers, the politicians, they're all against us. It's like we're fighting a war we can't win. Eva stood and crossed the room, her hand resting on his shoulder. We're not alone. You're not alone. We can do this. I know we can. Aaron looked up at her, his gaze searching. There was something about the way she said it, with such quiet confidence, as if she knew something he didn't, as if she could see a future where they triumphed over the forces working against them. How do you do that? He asked quietly. Do what? Stay so hopeful. You've seen the same destruction I have, maybe even worse, and yet, you still believe we can fix it. You make me believe we can fix it. Eva's heart ached at his words. If only she could tell him the truth, that she wasn't just hopeful, she was powerful. That she wasn't just human, she was something far more ancient, far more connected to the very forces of nature he fought to protect. But she couldn't. Not yet. There was too much at stake. If Aaron knew her true identity, he might become a target. She had to protect him. Instead, she leaned down and pressed her forehead to his, her fingers brushing lightly through his hair. I believe in you, she whispered. That's all we need. As long as we have each other, we can do anything. For a moment, there was only the sound of their breathing, the hum of the office equipment fading into the background. Aaron closed his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to relax. But their peace was short-lived. A sudden noise shattered the quiet. A loud crash from the front of the building, followed by the sound of footsteps. Aaron tensed immediately, his instincts kicking in. He motioned for Eva to stay put as he rose from his chair, moving silently toward the door. But Eva's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel it in the air. Something was wrong. Danger was near. Before Aaron could reach the door, it burst open, and 3 men stormed into the office. Their faces were masked, but their intent was clear. One of them held a metal pipe, his gaze fixed on Aaron. This is your last warning, the man growled. Stay out of our way, or things will get worse. Aaron's jaw tightened, his fists clenched at his sides. We're not going anywhere. You can't scare us into giving up. The man with the pipe took a menacing step forward, but before he could act, Eva moved. She couldn't hold back any longer. Her hand shot out, and in an instant, the air around them shifted. The lights flickered, and the room seemed to darken as if the very shadows were coming alive. The man froze, his eyes widening as an unseen force wrapped around him, immobilizing him in place. The other 2 men looked at each other in confusion, their confidence faltering. What the hell is this? One of them whispered, backing toward the door. Aaron looked at Eva, his eyes wide with shock and confusion. He could sense the change in the air, but he didn't understand what was happening. Eva held his gaze, her heart racing. She had revealed too much, but there was no going back now. You need to leave, she said, her voice calm but commanding. Now, the men didn't need any more convincing. They bolted for the door, dragging their paralyzed companion with them. As soon as they were gone, the room returned to normal, the lights steady once again, the shadows retreating to their rightful places. Aaron stood in stunned silence, his gaze locked on Eva. What a broken bar! What just happened? She couldn't avoid the truth anymore. It was time. Taking a deep breath, she stepped toward him, her heart heavy with the weight of what she was about to reveal. Aaron, she began, her voice soft but steady. There's something you need to know about me. I'm not who you think I am. He blinked, his brow furrowing in confusion. What are you talking about? I'm not a broken bar human, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm from a different world. A world where magic exists, where the forces of nature are alive, and a broken bar. I'm one of the guardians of that world. Aaron stared at her, his mind reeling from the revelation. What? That doesn't make any sense. Magic? A different world? How is that possible? I know it's hard to believe, she said, reaching for his hand. But it's the truth. I came to Earth to understand humans, to help in any way I could. But now a broken bar. Now we're both in danger because of it. Aaron pulled his hand away, taking a step back. These a broken bar. This is crazy, Eva. I don't understand any of this. She could see the fear and confusion in his eyes, and it broke her heart. She had wanted to tell him sooner, but she hadn't known how. Now, it seemed like everything was falling apart. I'm still me, she said, her voice pleading. I'm still the person you've been working with, the person you've grown close to. That hasn't changed. But you're not human, he said, his voice shaking. How can I trust anything you've said? How do I know you're not just using me for some other purpose? Eva's chest tightened with pain. She hadn't expected him to react like this, but she understood his fear. Everything he knew had just been turned upside down. I would never hurt you, she said softly. Everything I've done has been to protect you and this planet. I chose to stay because of you. Aaron looked at her for a long moment, the silence between them heavy with uncertainty. Finally, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know what to believe right now. I need time to process this. I understand, Eva whispered, her heart breaking. She had known this would be difficult, but the reality of it was far harder than she had imagined. Aaron gave her one last, lingering look before turning and walking out the door. Eva stood there, alone in the quiet office, her mind racing with all the things she wished she could say. But the words wouldn't come. She had to let him go. For now. In the days that followed, the tension between them grew unbearable. Aaron avoided her, throwing himself into his work, but the fire in his eyes was dimmer. Eva tried to give him space, but every moment apart felt like a knife twisting in her heart. Meanwhile, the threats against them escalated. The group that had attacked them in the office wasn't backing down. They wanted control, and they were willing to destroy everything Aaron and Eva had worked for to get it. One night, as Eva sat alone on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore, she felt the presence of something dark on the horizon. It was coming for them. It was only a matter of time. She couldn't let it happen. With a heavy heart, she stood and began walking back toward the town. She had to find Aaron. She had to make him understand. They needed each other now more than ever. When she arrived at the office, Aaron was there, sitting at his desk, his head in his hands. He looked up as she entered, his eyes tired and filled with regret. We need to talk, he said quietly. Eva nodded, her heart pounding. This was it. Whatever happened next would determine everything. He stood and crossed the room, stopping in front of her. I've been thinking a broken bar about everything you told me, about who you really are. Her breath caught in her throat, but she stayed silent, waiting for him to continue. I don't understand it all, he admitted. But I know one thing for sure. You've been by my side through everything. You've never given me a reason not to trust you. And I can't do this without you. Eva's eyes filled with tears, her chest swelling with relief. You're on a broken bar. He took her hands in his, his grip firm but gentle. "I don't care what you are. All I care about is that we're in this together." Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed outside, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. The enemy was here. Erin squeezed her hand. "Whatever happens, we fight together." Eva nodded, her heart racing as she prepared to unleash the full extent of her power. They were outnumbered, but they had each other, and together, they were unstoppable. The battle was fierce and chaotic, but Eva's magic was a force unlike anything her enemies had ever seen. She wielded the elements with precision and strength, her connection to the natural world allowing her to bend it to her will. Aaron fought alongside her, his determination and bravery unmatched. In the end, they emerged victorious, standing together amid the wreckage of their enemy's defeat. Exhausted but triumphant, they collapsed into each other's arms, the weight of their victory heavy on their shoulders. "I told you," Eva whispered, a small smile playing on her lips. "As long as we have each other, we can do anything." Aaron chuckled, pulling her closer. "You're right. We make a pretty good team." As they stood together, watching the sun rise over the horizon, Eva knew that her journey wasn't over. There would be more battles to fight, more challenges to face. But with Aaron by her side, she was ready for whatever came next. Together, they would protect this world and no matter the cost.